Well, hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Missing Wolves post-game live stream podcast, whatever it is, and the one-day hiatus. I apologize to everyone after doing these post-game things for a calendar year straight. Finally got the flu and was in a mini coma after that Washington game, so decided to skip that one. But we're back at it again today. Couldn't be a better game to do it after the Wolves blow a lead with a minute left that no one should be blowing. But I'm joined here by my seatmate at most Wolves games, Andrew Carlson. How's it going, man?
It's good, man. I was about to say we pretty much do this during games anyways, so why don't we do it? Why don't we do it after one of them? Also, kind of crazy and convenient too that your Iron Man streak broke around the same time that Jaden's did. So I don't know. I think you guys maybe have a few similarities there.
Yeah, Jaden, just like broke his wrist or did whatever he did, caring for two infant children and playing world-class defense. I didn't wash my hands enough and got influenza from a patient. So
yeah, I mean, you're playing hurt no matter what, right?
And now you just get raspy Andrew on the mic here, but it'll be great. Andrew, I guess I'll just throw it over to you. I mean, first takeaways from this loss. I mean, we can break down the final minute and 10 seconds if you want to, but essentially the Wolves did not score and Phoenix scored enough, including a Connor Gillespie go-ahead floater mid-range shots and a Julius Randle just kind of punt at the rim, I would say. It didn't look like a shot, but what were your takeaways?
Yeah, I think that's the thing about these live streams, right? Is I'm still trying to process like everybody else because we were about to jump on and talk about what was going to be what I would say the best win of the season against the Phoenix team that was super physical, super handsy early on, and something that the Wolves were able to overcome pretty easily. But instead, we're here talking, and I think we talked about this before we jumped on here, the worst blown lead, like in terms of just a loss since what in my memory serves me right, and the chat can help me out with this, 2020 against the Orlando Magic when Cole Anthony hit the half-court shot to win the game. Just that one is kind of burned into the brain a little bit, but this one is for sure up there too. I think there's probably a few things that went into it. Well, first of all, and a thought that maybe a little bit outside of it, Chris Finch and the Converses this year is just, it's a good look. All right, man. Like it's a glass half full thing. Like the Converse thing, it's a step up over the all black Skechers, especially with the black coaches uniforms. It's takeaway number one. We'll get that right off the bat.
I wonder if Nikhil's funneling him some kickbacks from his new Converse deal.
It's a great question. That's a great point. It very well could be, but it is an upgraded look, no question. I think the thing is it's like it felt like a Wolves team where there were two maybe symptoms of the problem. One, the compete just kind of stopped there in the last minute. They go up 8 points. With it was 8, I think, with 49 seconds left. And at that point, they kind of threw it on easy street, and the Suns are still picking up 94 feet and clearly had at least some wherewithal to want to come back and win the game. And then I think the second problem, too, is that this is the type of game where the lack of point guard kind of comes and rears its head. You have essentially when the Suns are running defensive plays to either trap or stop the ball from getting inbounded, you have 3 guys running in the backcourt who are capable ball handlers who are all kind of calling for it and confusing the inbounder a little bit. Yeah. I think that was maybe one of the issues too with that. Was it the Royce O'Neal 3? I think it was Royce O'Neal that hit the 3 that brought it within 1. That was, I think, maybe the problem on that play. And so these are the types of moments where that, like, the Wolves for 3.5 quarters, 3.9 quarters can go without the point guard and it can look okay. But there are these moments where that's going to come rear its ugly head. And this is one of those games where I think that kind of came back around to bite them.
I think that final play to me is like, it, Phoenix makes the bucket. There's 6 seconds left. Like if you have not even like Ja Morant, Trae Young, like all of the fantasy trades, but if you just have Mike Conley of last year, he gets the inbound, dribbles it up. You run a pin down where Ant's coming off it, and Ant gets a fairly clean look. Mm-hmm. It's not just inbound to Julius. He dribbles it up the court and like shot puts it at the rim.
Yeah.
If you're in the like Wolves need a point guard camp, that is like the example I would point to, like for anyone in that camp to argue, because it is like this is this very specific time that they absolutely need one. I mean, I also think the defense down the stretch in that one, I mean, it's just it's hard because we're not in Phoenix, right? Like when we're at the game and we're able to go into the locker room and talk to Finch and stuff like that, well, they're generally pretty self-aware. Well, they're where they'll be like, yeah, we weren't putting our best effort in on this one. I can't speak to people's effort. I can say it looked very complacent once they got that 8-point lead. I mean,
Absolutely.
Dillon Brooks misses the shot with like just under a minute left, and Royce O'Neal gets the putback like layup, and it just seemed like from that point on, it was like, oh, this Phoenix team just wants it more. Which, how long have we been saying that about the Wolves? I mean, it seems like it's been at least the 5 years I've been writing about them.
Well, and especially too when Brooks fouled out there at the end of the game, that was kind of what many would probably think would be the hatchet in the game, and it just wasn't. It was really weird, and I think to your point on the defense too, that reared its ugly head on the last play in the Gillespie shot.
Yeah,
Because it looked, and we weren't there, so we won't know, but it looked a little bit like a miscommunication on the switch with DiVincenzo there. And he was just kind of late getting to Gillespie and gave him a little bit of runway towards the elbow. And so looked like there could have been some issues even on that last defensive possession. And like he was dribbling down the court, like anyone with a brain knew that it was going to be Colin Gillespie taking the last shot. Like
yes,
he was the only player left in the Suns lineup that was capable of releasing the basketball from outside of 10 feet. So that was pretty well known. And I just think that last defensive possession was maybe a little bit of a miscommunication or just a little bit of a delay, and it caught them off guard a little bit, and Gillespie had a clear run to the basket, and that's a pretty automatic shot for a player like him who's having himself a nice season and had a great game tonight.
I mean, even with Gillespie, like in that play, which I, again, admittedly, other than watching it back like twice before you hopped on here, like I have not. I'll be completely honest. This is just pulling back the curtain for all of the fans that are in here, which 300 people swinging by already. Appreciate all of you guys. But like for the people that have swung by here, like pulling back the curtain a little bit, there is no Minnesota media in Phoenix right now. The Star Tribune is not sending Chris Hine everywhere. If you're like me and really like Chris Hine and his coverage on this team, start sending letters to the Star Tribune. I'm sure if they get enough of them, they'll send them on road trips again. But like John, I don't think is down there. Dane funds his own travel, which is like insane that he goes to as many road games as he does. So like this is a game where like we're not really going to know most of this until they come back from their road trip. And that's if like, you know, they could go out. Who do they play next? The Kings. They could go out and beat the Kings by 117 points, and then no one's talking about Phoenix, and it's just on to the next one. But that last play, it's just kind of like, you know, it's going to be Connor. Like how do you get that drawn up a little bit better where Jaden and Ant are in that action and you're not putting Dante in a position to try and make that play? But again, we probably won't have answers, which for me, that's the frustrating part.
And there could be a world too where you trap Gillespie and but at that point, who are you bringing in? Are you helping off of Royce O'Neal, who also was able to hit some big threes tonight and keep the Suns in the game? I could probably predict what Finch would say in some of these situations where it was like the last minute and a half, our first two quarters came back. I thought, you know, coming out of halftime, the Wolves actually, the physicality came back. They looked like they actually wanted to come, like they actually looked like they wanted to play basketball, which they did not in the first half. And so like they got into the body, they got to the paint, and obviously like asserted his will in the third quarter. We'll probably talk about that a little bit later, and brought some of that physicality to Phoenix that was so desperately needed. And just hasn't been there against teams that are above 500, and has been a main reason that they've lost these games. But yeah, when you get back into that last minute, I think also too, a reason that they maybe could have let up was Devin Booker fouling out, and that he hit a couple of big shots down the stretch, even though he played like he got bottle service last night. It was one of those situations where he hit a couple big shots late, then he fouled out, and it was like, okay, I think we're good here, and we can just kind of roll the ball out and be good, and that's not what happened, and it wasn't quite as crisp as I'm sure Finch even wanted when he drew it up, and I'm sure that it was a good faith play that probably would have worked, but it just was not probably executed to the level that he probably would have desired in that situation.
Well, and I think we could say that sentence for about 9 different things that happened in that last, 70 seconds or so. I mean, they give up the offensive rebound to Royce O'Neal. He gets the putback. They, Ant gets fouled, gets trapped, and kind of bailed out because he's just kind of flailing a pass over to Jaden. But then like he gets fouled, goes to the line, misses both free throws. Like if any one of those things doesn't happen, they probably win this game. But I feel like for this Wolves team this year, they kind of need a loss like this. I feel like they have been this really weird combination of like overconfident, but they're not like cocky. I wouldn't say that, but like they just have a weird vibe to them. I mean, Cole asks in the chat here, just what's wrong with this team? Do you remember when we had Cat? If we were disengaged throughout games. I mean, I'll just ask you kind of blanket. I mean, what do you think is wrong with this team right now?
No, I don't know. That's a great question. I think to Cole's point about the Cat teams, I think some of those situations were just like lack of offensive IQ on a lot of those teams with a flow offense that it didn't really work at a lot of points, and people were just trying to take turns, and that just ultimately didn't work. This team is really interesting because I think, especially after the Wizards game, they're up 25 points at halftime, and they essentially, I would say they blew the lead, brought it to, it was, I think, 4 points at one point. And Nas
extensively blew the lead. I would
they
agree
did blew it.
Like
Yeah,
they let that one off the hook and then won it.
it's a clutch time game after a 25-point halftime lead. And Nas said in the locker room after the game, like, paraphrasing, it wasn't an exact quote, but it was like, we kind of thought we had it in the bag at halftime. And to be fair, 16,000 people at Target Center thought they did. I thought they did, and probably everybody watching on TV did. But there is just this tendency here to let off the gas. And I know that there's probably a sentiment there of, these guys are veterans. They've been on the team for a long time. But at the end of the day, they're still like 24, 25, and 26 years old. And I think that that's still kind of the mentality that happens for younger players, even though they've been in the league for however many years. Like, that's just kind of how things go. And Mike said it before too. Like, the team, like, sometimes they don't even get engaged until winning time. I think Mike said that after the Lakers game, where like sometimes it just takes these close games, these nail-biting finishes to kind of lock in and play physical offensively, rebound the basketball. It's another major component that just was very intermittent all evening.
Yeah.
And so sometimes they need these type of situations to kind of bring the juices back. And to Cole's point, like, I think that that's maybe something that happened tonight where they're up 8 points. Again, we talked about, they're up 8 points with 49 seconds left. All right, we're good. Let's go to the locker room and let's just close this thing out. And that was not on Phoenix's radar.
No, it's yeah. I mean, certainly was not on Phoenix's radar. I tweeted about it earlier, like I think at my first quarter break or whatever. I try not to tweet a ton during games because like anything I'm gonna say is probably not more awe-inspiring than like what Britt or John or Dane is gonna say. So like I don't need to clog people's feeds. But like this has been like the fastest turnover from like last year's Phoenix Suns team, which was complacent, didn't look like they even wanted to be in the same room with to each other, to this year. Like they're scrappy this year. Like very impressed. And maybe that's just like the Dillon Brooks of it all, or Devin Booker is like a competent NBA like all-star. But yeah, they have completely redone their identity. Cole chimes back in here. Is it coaching or more personnel? I mean, I'm going to kind of side with you, Andrew. I think it's more personnel than coaching. I mean, I can say, like, Chris Finch coaches these guys hard. It's not like he's sitting there after a loss like this and not blowing up in the locker room afterwards. Like, he puts together good schemes. He puts together like good plays. I know the like late game execution stuff last year was a big talking point on like Wolves Twitter, but it's like Chris Finch could like, he could like draw out like a Da Vinci caliber play on the grease board. And if it's inbounded to Ant and Ant decides he's going to cook, it doesn't matter what Finch drew up. Like, Finch just gets to fall on that sword now. I think a lot of it is an Anthony Edwards thing. I mean, you look at how the team performed in the third quarter when Ant got his motor going and was going kind of ballistic out there. I think a lot of it is, you know, this team is still, I guess, 15 months into this new iteration of them trying to figure out like who they are, which I think they have a good idea of it, but I don't think they really know who is going to hold them accountable on nights like this, which I'd love to get your thoughts.
Yeah, and I think to your point, I do from the Phoenix side think it is the Dillon Brooks effect. I actually really like Dillon Brooks as a player. I think he's phenomenal, as much of an irritant as he is. I mean, he's a complete tone setter, and he did it in Memphis. Look what happened after he left Memphis. He did it in Houston, brought that team back from the lottery to a playoff team that was built on defense, frankly. And now look what he's doing in Phoenix. I mean, Phoenix was supposed to be a bottom feeding team, and I would be stunned if they're out of the play-in this year. They feel like kind of that play-in range type of team. They might even play their way out of it. They kind of have that, and they have like long, rangy wings. I wrote about this for Canis after the game on Wednesday night. Like, this is going to be the first true test for the Wolves in a long time, because a lot of players on the Wolves struggle with these rangy wings that play hard, are super handsy, get into your body a little bit, and can be rattled a little bit by those types of players. And so this was going to be that test. And also for Rudy too, playing up against a pretty solid front court. Like, Mark Williams is not a bad player, and he showed that tonight too. And so, yeah, I agree with you. I do think it's a personnel thing. And like how like in the supposed hypothetical of the fans, some fans may be wanting Finch to coach like Tibbs, you know, like how often does that happen until you like lose some guys too? Like, you have to do both things. Like, you have to coach them hard, and you also have to, you know, encourage them as well at the same time. And it shouldn't be on coaching to coach drive and the willingness to want to close a game out. Like, that should be an internal thing within NBA players to say, you know, we're just gonna put one in the left column here. So I think it's more of a personnel thing, and there's plenty of stories and legendary things with film sessions that happen with this team where Finchy gets on players' asses plenty. But no, I think it is. I think it can be a personnel thing, and what helps that, I think, time, seasoning, and sometimes you need these losses as a little bit of a gut check. But I think the biggest disappointment of all tonight is this was really going to be, I don't want to say a signature win, because I think that would have blown it out of proportion a little bit, but it would have been pretty close, because it would have been by far the best win they've had this year. And that was just completely ripped out of their hands.
CD mentioned this one's on Rob. If Rob's foot was behind the line on that three, it's a tie game.
It's a great point.
All on Rob. Let's just pile on Rob.
That's a great.
We haven't thrown him under the bus yet tonight.
It's a great point. Thought he actually gave pretty good minutes tonight too, by the way. As an aside. I thought he was a nice little jump start there in the second quarter.
It's fine.
Yeah, if he comes in and he makes
Rob
shots. Yeah, exactly.
Altman just mentions Jalen Clark should have been in the game on that last defensive possession. I'm going to be honest. I'm kind of to the point where, like, I think Jalen Clark should just be in the game all the time. Like, I don't know where you find him minutes for, but that guy should be playing 25 to 30 minutes a night. Like, he is just awesome. I do want to get to some more chats, but Andrew, first we gotta run a couple ads here, and then we'll get back to reading some chat here. Well, hello. Thank you, Livestream Andrew. This is Ad Read Andrew. And today we have Firehawk Construction and Remodeling, the presenting sponsor for the Missing Links podcast. Firehawk Construction and Remodeling strives to inspire people to follow their ideas, working with respect and understanding to create a quality, tailored result.
Firehawk Construction and Remodeling, located in Blaine and serving in the North Metro area, is here to help you with your building and remodeling needs. I can say personally, thanks to Firehawk Construction and Remodeling, I have a beautiful deck in my backyard and countless projects that I started, they finished. Get started on your new deck or remodel today by calling Isaac at 763-710-5686. And we're back with another ad read, this time for Pence Homes, the presenting sponsor of Hitting the Hardwood Network. From the best tools and technology to transparency throughout the entire process, Nate Pence and the Pence Homes team is the top choice for buyers, sellers, and is proud to support you and your home ownership goals. Get started today by calling 612-308-1122 or by emailing info@pencehomes.com.
Godfrey mentions here they had that game in the bag, and then also mentions Ant lost focus that last minute, didn't box out, bad inbound pass, 2 missed free throws. I mean, I'm not going to make you do like a Purple Daily Score North pie chart of praise or pie chart of blame or whatever one we're going on, but like objectively, I think you can look at this game and say the only reason they were in the game in the first place was because Ant just went nuclear in the third quarter and sparked something. And then objectively, they probably lost the game because Ant in the last minute of the fourth quarter kind of took his foot off the gas, which I think that's how I would kind of summarize this game. I'm assuming you're doing a gamer for Canis tomorrow. Is that kind of your takeaway as well?
Yeah, I think very much so. Like, won and lost with Ant is a very fair way to put it. I think that also, though, to your point before the ad break, was like, I think the game was brought back from 3 players. It was Ant, it was Rudy, and it was Jalen Clark. Ant for sure, obviously, like he had his third quarter explosion. But from a Rudy standpoint, this was one of the games that I thought he had 12 and 12. It felt like a 15-15, nearly 20-20 game for him. He was phenomenal tonight.
Yeah.
In clearing bodies out underneath the basket, made a lot of plays that wouldn't even show up in the rebound column, but just like tips, drawing fouls on the floor, kind of caught Mark Williams out of position multiple times. I thought Rudy was really, really good tonight. And in that last minute, I do think that it was more on Ant. I was more surprised that Rudy was out on the floor when that stuff happened, frankly. I think that typically, like, that's not something that you would see, and he was a part of that last play. It is too ironic. Like, Rudy and Dante now are the 2 people who have been involved with buzzer beaters that have beat the Wolves this season, between that Reeves shot earlier and now the Gillespie shot with just a couple seconds left. But no, I mean, I do. I think it was won and lost with number 5, as a lot of games this team has, and that variability now is there's just going to be more of a percentage of blame on that because you don't have a Nikhil, and the other players around you are just going to be pretty steady. Like, good game from Julius Randle tonight, like really solid game. Really solid game from Jaden. Really solid game from, like, these things have kind of been consistent, but it's the up and down nature of Ant throughout a game that can really win and lose things.
You said it great. I mean, the consistency around him is starting to. You're able to start, like, it's far enough into the season now where you can start to rely on things like Julius is going to get you 28 and 5, like, religiously. It seems like Nas is starting to get back into, the Nas read we were hoping for. Jaden,
Yep.
Dante, like, you know what you're going to get. It does seem like Ant is still kind of the unpredictable one where you don't know if he's going to get you 41 like he did tonight, or if he's going to get you sub 15 like he did a couple times this year, which, I know Jace Frederick had a great piece over in the Pioneer Press of just, kind of not calling out Ants. He didn't like call him out. He just threw some numbers out there of like, hey, certain other MVP caliber players aren't doing this stuff. And I mean, I think this is the year that we got to look at Ant and kind of expect that consistency to come with it. But what are your thoughts?
Yeah, absolutely. You do need that consistency to come with it too, because you also, I mean, the harsh reality is that the end of the bench isn't really picking you up like it used to. I mean, I know I mentioned Nikhil, but like he was one of those players that picked those lapses in performance that Ant maybe would previously have up. And last year with Julius too, like when Julius didn't really have a great game, like it was kind of that end of the bench and those depth pieces that were kind of picking them up. Like Jalen Clark's not going to score 40 points. Like he injected energy into the game, but he's not going to put 40 in. Rob put some nice minutes together tonight, but I mean, he's not going to score 40. He's not going to really be a massive difference maker at this point. Mike had a tough one tonight. He was 1 for 4. So like that's by his season
That's
average
Mike,
of 46% by a season average of 46% from 3 that we're, I guess, going with now. Like that's not a great game from Mike. And Nas, like, I mean, Nas had 9 tonight. That's not a great Nas game. I mean, typically you'd probably like to see like 15 to 20 from him, but he's had a nice stretch, so I won't bag on him too much. So those are the types of things where like you just need your starters in general to stuff the stat sheet. Dante didn't do that really until the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
And it was really kind of the Rudy off the box score and then Julius and Ant show. And they just really couldn't afford Ant to let up at all. And that's kind of where things ultimately fell apart. But where I would say and kind of back up on this because it has been kind of a wow, they just lost. It's a little doom and gloomy. Like the Wolves at one point were down 18 points in the first half. It looked like it was going to be over pretty quickly. There just was no compete level. The Wolves were getting outplayed. They were not putting a body really into anybody. And the Suns completely set the tone of the game earlier on.
Lot of Dillon Brooks. Lot of Dillon Brooks.
And Ryan Dunn too, who I think is a nice player. And also too, like Dillon Brooks, like, I thought kind of crossed my mind. He's kind of a on steroids version of what people thought Pat Bev was that year in 21-22. Like he's kind of a setter. Like if you miss an assignment, he's going to get on you a little bit. But it was, I mean, it looked like, and the thing with the Wolves too, is they were allowing that physicality to really impact their offensive game. Like they weren't really getting to the paint as much. They were settling for a lot of jumpers. And I think they were missing a lot of their jumpers because they were letting that physicality get to them a little bit. It was a very cyclical thing in the first half. So we're here talking about a loss. I thought in the first half, we were also going to be here kind of talking about a loss, and it was going to be a little bit more, probably a negative review throughout. But they came back in the second, and that's kind of what you wanted to see. And there are good things that can come out of this game. Like I think back to the Atlanta game a couple of years ago, where it was just like they were up double digits at halftime, and Atlanta came out and punked them, and it was a 20-point loss. Like these are the types of games that you kind of need to jumpstart some of those things within your team. I think last year too, when Finch got kicked out of the Phoenix game, like just some of these like emotional type of games that you just kind of need to get through to a team. And despite their best efforts, they did end up losing, but there are some very positive things there. I think you can take against the Suns team that's defending everyone in the regular season like it's a game 6.
Again, to your Dillon Brooks point, yes, feel free to trade him to Minnesota. I don't give up Jaden, but like if it's Dante and Rob for Dillon Brooks, I don't know, why not? Like he would definitely mix up the culture.
Yeah.
Like it is one of those things that I agree with you. I think there's more positives to take from this than we're probably thinking about right now, just because I mean, Ant legitimately did single-handedly wreck that third quarter. Like 19 points, steal and a block. He had a couple other like pass deflections. He was unbelievable in that third quarter. It's just, how do you get that guy to keep that energy either at the beginning of a game and keep it until the game's so far out of reach that like Johan's playing 18 minutes, or how do you get him to keep it through the end of the game? And I think that's the one thing the Wolves have really struggled with in like this Anthony Edwards era, is how do we keep the fire burning, throughout an entire game? And Godfrey brings up. Godfrey is one of our Rudy Gobert loyalists. We'll call you that in the chat. Rudy LaMelo straight up. I'd probably do Rudy LaMelo straight up. I don't think the Hornets would want that, but
Yeah, I think you'd probably by default just talent for talent have to do that. I would advise against it based on how the Wolves are currently constructed. This team already kind of struggles a little bit with defense, and you'd be rocking with that Rudy or not. You'd be rocking with what the Nas and Julius front court with the LaMelo and back court. I mean,
be a lot of vibes. Be a lot of vibes.
Hey, Godfrey, if you want to watch a 170 to 160 basketball game, hey, to each their own, man. I can get behind that, but I think given the construct of the team, it'd be a tough one to do. And I think tonight, like again, it kind of proved another one of those games where Rudy kind of proved his worth. It's been a stretch of those games against those bad sub 500 teams where, like, of course, Rudy's going to kill Moussa Cisse in that. Like, of course, he's going to.
But that is the one thing with Rudy that I shouldn't say the one thing, because I feel like I'm often a Rudy apologist on this podcast, which, like, I think people that like have followed me long enough know that, like, it is what it is. We have Rudy Gobert on this team. There's no sense in like just kicking the guy or like putting him on a pedestal, but like Rudy Gobert does give you a certain floor against bad teams. Like, when you are playing the Washington Wizards, Rudy is at least going to try hard for most of that game and like be prepared and professional. It's just, the other side of it where, I mean, again, he had a great game tonight, 12 points, 12 rebounds. He had like that crazy Dante alley-oop, like touched layup he had, but then also he did that thing where he fumbles the ball and kicks it into the third row. And it's just kind of like, can't we have a medium?
Yeah. And I mean, the best way that Finch has described him is the ultimate floor raiser, right? Like, he prevents this team from completely puking on themselves on a nightly basis against bad teams that they should beat, which, again, before they had Rudy, like, that was what like 21-22, they ran around and they trapped and they played a lot of like super active defense, but they didn't really have that guy that elevated the floor because teams could scheme up defense in the way where Jared Vanderbilt was parked in a corner and you're essentially playing 4-on-5 offensively. So he does those things, but you get to such a level where, whether it is the Western Conference Finals last year against Oklahoma City, a lot of games against Golden State in the playoffs too, even, like, there is a ceiling there with Rudy. I do think offensively his touch has gotten a little bit better this year. Yeah. I would say that. I mean, I don't think it's abhorrent. I think that, again, like those Dante lobs that he's catching and putting in, like, I'm not sure he does that a couple of years ago, frankly. He does. He elevates the floor by being in the dunkers area. He brings gravity and makes everyone's job a little bit easier. I think especially Jaden, from someone who makes a lot of hay in the mid-range. Yeah. He helps out Jaden a lot specifically. But there is those performances that, like, typically, like when he plays Denver, it's not great. We'll see if Embiid plays this year when they play, but it's not great when they typically play. Like, it's just there's just that level of competition that he does tend to struggle a little bit more against. But I don't, in my pie chart of blame per se for tonight, Rudy may not even be on it. I thought he was very solid against Mark Williams, even though Mark Williams put up a nice box score. Thought he rendered him relatively ineffective when it mattered.
He seemed really active everywhere too. Like, it was a good, Rudy had like his swagger where he was like walking with his like shoulders up and like doing the Rudy stuff. And like, I agree. I don't think this one was too much on Rudy. I will say, like, probably biggest slice, and Julius, like, man, you got to move the ball on that final 6 seconds. You can't just dribble it up slowly and shot put a three. Like, you got to have some we both know that these guys practice late game execution stuff like every practice. Like, you got to have something else. Andrew, I'm going to serve this last one up to you because it is officially to the maybe we fire Chris Finch start of this. But first, Professor says Clark minus 12 in 8 minutes. Why was he one of the 3 stars? I think he did a really good job in the third quarter. Did he play in the third quarter, or am I blending the second quarter?
But while you look for that, Andrew, I'll just say this. Like, Jalen Clark, like I said, Jalen Clark's never going to score 40 points, never going to score 10 points even, maybe. But I
would take the under on Jalen Clark having a career average of 10 points.
What Jalen does when he comes in, and actually what I would say too is a big slice of that blame would be the bench tonight. I think there were only like 18 combined bench points.
Tough Mike game. You mentioned it earlier, but it was Mike looked slow.
What I would say about Jalen is he makes the energy plays on the margins that I think bring life to the rest of the lineup. And I think in the third quarter, he was a big part of that. I mean, obviously he made that dumb play at the end of the quarter where he put Gillespie on the line, and it was a dumb foul, but especially in games like this, where it's like I said earlier, like the Wolves shot 37% from the field, I believe, or 37% from the field at the end of the first quarter. I think the Suns were shooting 61%. Like, there was a physicality factor there that was just clearly bothering the Wolves. And there was nobody that was really up for that challenge in the first half. Jalen Clark comes in and is immediately up for that challenge. And I think everybody else kind of follows his lead there. Last year, it was Nickeil that did that. The difference with Nickeil is he was more of an offensive factor. But Jalen Clark is that guy defensively this year, where if there is a lack in physicality, he comes in and kind of sets that tone. And I think the biggest example of that too is the Portland game in the first game of the year, when the Wolves were not very physical early on in that one, and the Portland was playing a very similar way to Phoenix tonight. And Jalen Clark came in and turned that game on its head right away. So he's just one of those X factors where it's like it's just when he's in the game, everyone else around is a little bit different, but his box score, like the needle of his box score, is not really going to be moved a ton.
Yeah, I mean, Professor, I would agree with you. Like, Dante, realistically, like, he got 31 and a half today. He was +9. He went +18 in the third quarter. So, like, he was a part of that entire, like, big run before they subbed Jalen Clark in. Clark had 4 minutes. He went -4. Like,
and the plus minus with Jalen Clark is like it's a symptom too of the other players that he's in the game with that are off the bench, right? Like, if he was in with the starters, this might be a little bit of a different story. It's so, to your point, Andrew, like the plus minus stuff, it is an indicator, but like for Jalen, like, it can also be a symptom of who else he's in with at the time.
I thought he brought. I'll put it this way: like, Rob Dillingham was a dead even, just 0, right? Jalen was a -12. I think anyone who watched the game would just objectively say Jalen had a better game than Rob Dillingham, but Rob had his minutes when there was good runs and Jalen didn't. That being said, Professor, like, I don't disagree with your take. Like, Dante probably should be getting closer to 35, 38 minutes if he's going to be the starting point guard. And they should honestly glue him in the rotation with Julius Randle, because those guys, like, work so well together with Randall's weird, like, jump pass corner thing. But Andrew, it is time. Godfrey says, like Finch, best Wolves coach ever. Minnie says, describes Finch when we were talking about Gobert being a floor raiser. Provides a nice floor, but isn't going to elevate him to the next level. He's mid. What's your Chris Finch take, Andrew?
Yeah, I don't entertain this one very often, just because I think it's wild to just have the calls for his job. Like, when you have a good coach in the NBA, you just don't let go of them. And in Finch's case, I just think there's so many factors here as to why, like, a game like tonight was lost. Like, sure, in again, a pie chart, like, he probably takes some of it. Again, that last defensive play, I think he maybe could have schemed something up a little bit different, but there's nothing here. I mean, he's calling more plays. He's putting guys in position to run better offense. Like, the offense is the best it's been in years. Like, look at some of the players that have developed under him. Like, you have an Ant. It was Ant's rookie season when Finch came in, it was immediately better. He played to Ant's strengths. Look at the development of Jaden. Look at the development of Nikhil. Look at the development of Julius Randle. He's completely evolved his game to be a different player. Like, these are the types of, and I mean, Nas too, to a degree. Like, look at these players that have become completely different under him in a very positive way, and maybe look a little bit more at the trees than the forest. And if you want to look at the forest, then look at the win percentage, look at the playoff results, and all of the other things that have come around it. I'm not really here for the Fire Finch stuff. I never really have been. And it's a little frustrating to see after every single loss, because like we've talked about, there are so many more things that happened on the floor tonight that are not even close to touching what the coaching staff really maybe even wanted. Might be some, there's a good amount of going rogue that happens in a lot of these moments.
I agree with you. The only thing I would add is Ant still loves the guy as long as the franchise player wants him as his coach. Like, they're not going to fire him. Like, it took Mike Malone alienating every member of the Denver Nuggets to get him fired. Like, not Jaeger, not Fizdale. Who is Memphis's most recent coach that got axed? Taylor Jenkins. Like, same thing. It took like a locker room mutiny to get him axed. Like, until Ant or until things start leaking out through people like me or Andrew or Dane or people that are in the locker room saying like, oh, they're really just like, Chris leaves the room and everybody's like chuckling at his like bald spot that he does not have. He has immaculate hair, but like, he still has the team, which if they were going to move on from him like now, I mean, the options you're looking at is probably Mike and Nori, which nothing would change this season. Like, he'd run the same offense, the same defense. Maybe players would play harder, but that's, who knows. And then you're looking at either extending Nori or you're looking at a Mike Malone, who I don't really know I don't know how Ant would respond to a Mike Malone type of coach that is like verbally accosting his star players at every turn. Like, it just, to me, it's a non-issue until it's an issue, and until I start hearing things that it's an issue, like it is what it is. But
yeah, I'm not even here. I'm not even really here for that stuff. And I think to the people who like, I see like mini sports fan here too, of like, that describes Finch. He provides a nice floor, but isn't going to elevate this team to the next level. Like, I would just challenge, like, what is the next level here? Like, you made Western Conference Finals. Like, obviously your next level is finals. What are the tangible coaching things that are going to bring this team to the next level? Like Nick Nurse, for example, in Toronto, like, for him, he when he was brought in after Dwayne Casey, like, literally his thing was like, he ran a box and one in the finals. And that's what ended up ultimately being a big thing to at least somewhat containing Steph. Like, these things of like taking a team to a next level, like, what is that? Because I think at every single turn, he has taken this team to the next level. From the time that he got in as an interim coach, he took them from a toilet bowl team to somewhat respectable that season. Then the next season, a playoff team. And then the season after that, another playoff team, Western Conference Finals. Like, there are 3 different levels that he has taken this team to. So like, what is there left to do in terms of the next level thing? Like, that takes time, that takes patience. Like, you put yourself in those positions every single year, and that will take you over. Ultimately, like, that has been proven to take you over the top. Look at Denver, look at Milwaukee, like, look at these teams who just put themselves in the mix year after year. Like, that ultimately has a higher correlation to going to the next level than like your coach who has done a lot of the right things since he's come to Minnesota to increase performance and develop players at a very high level. And what I would say too, like, develop players, you can make an argument about some other organizations, like Oklahoma City is obviously going to be there, but the Wolves are right there for the best player development organization in the league right now. If you go from the top to the bottom of the roster and the players that have left the roster and are now on other teams, like, there are arguments to be made that they are top 2, top 3 player development organization right now. So I just would challenge, like, what is that next thing that you're looking for? And if the blanket answer is just like, well, they haven't been to the finals yet, then like, let's go back to the drawing board on that.
I think to hammer your point home is like, Nick Nurse, brilliant offensive mind, like gets the Toronto job. I mean, there's something to be said that he won a championship because KD blew out his leg and Klay Thompson got injured. And half of the team was out.
That's
like the box and one was his big thing to stop Curry, but they could run a box and one because Kevin Durant wasn't there. I mean, even if you're looking like at like other just like 1 year championship and done coaches, like Mike Budenholzer wins it with the Bucks after being with the Bucks forever. Like, he didn't really do anything different. Giannis just shot better from the free throw line and better from three, and they win it. So, like, to your point, I think a lot of it is more of just the best guy on your team either elevates or you get lucky, which right now, as long as Oklahoma City exists, we're kind of in the you need to get lucky type of outlook, which that's the reality.
If you have an impatient approach, you end up being the team that the Wolves played tonight in Phoenix. How many coaches have they been through in a few years? I mean, it's an absolute dumpster fire. Even though they played pretty well tonight, like they're in a pretty precarious spot. So, that's just I don't like when I see that stuff on Twitter. I don't really entertain it. But while we're here and while we're talking about it, like, I might as well get it out, right?
Hey, that's what these post-game lives are for. They're about getting all the feelings out. We're being vulnerable. This is good for everyone. All right, Andrew, I'm going to wrap it here. But before I get you out of here, anything you want to plug, anything you want to promote, anything you got coming out that you're particularly happy about, where can people find you, all that fun stuff?
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at Andrew_Carlson2. I'm writing for Canis quite a bit this year. I'm working on a piece right now that's not going to be super immediate, but I'm just going to talk a little on the topic of Finch, like his approach of patience to coaching, and how that's benefited rotations and players a little bit. So working on that right now, but to support Canis, we've got a solid, nimble team over there, and we're putting out stuff quite a bit and interact with our stuff, and we love that.
Interactions, subscribing, follows, comments go a super long way for all of that online algorithm stuff. So
it's all good stuff, isn't it?
Go interact with Andrew Carlson's work over on Canis. We will be back after the next game against, panic, the Kings on Monday. It'll be a late 9 p.m. start, but Jonah Maves from Zone Coverage and Honcho J-Man on Twitter is going to be joining me after that one. And until then, I mean, I guess go Wolves. Do we say like a go Wolves after this type of loss?
On to Sacramento, maybe?
Okay, on to Sacramento.